Hi, this is Dr. Donnelly, and I'm here today to talk to you about preparing for a class discussion using the class discussion preparation handout. And specifically, I'm going to talk about Night by Elie Wiesel. So I've got the top half of my handout filled out, but I just want to talk through each of these sections quickly and then show you how I would actually fill them out. So the first section is to write a brief summary, about 3 sentences, of what happened in each chapter. And that's just, you can't really have a good discussion about a text until you have a basic grasp of what happened. And writing it down really can help you clarify in your own mind what happened. One quick thing to notice about this section: each chapter. So if you're doing it on 2 chapters for any given day, make sure you have a couple sentences about each chapter. The second thing that you're going to do when you fill out this handout is you're going to write at least 2 thoughtful questions about the chapter. There's 2 basic reasons for this. One is that class discussions are really a great opportunity for you to learn more about the text. I always leave class discussions or book chats with a deeper understanding of the text that I came from. And by writing 2 thoughtful questions, you enable yourself to kind of get a little bit deeper into the things that you care about. Another reason that it's useful to write 2 thoughtful questions is that you can use them if the conversation ever kind of stalls out, to bring up a new topic or kind of reanimate the conversation and get your classmates talking. That means the more thoughtful and the more kind of provocative those questions are, the better off they are for kind of provoking those conversations. And then the final section that I'm going to talk about today is that you're going to have to write down 1 quote that you found particularly striking, meaningful, or perplexing. And then write 1 question or comment about why that quote, is important. Why that quote is important. You can also write down any additional notes or questions or comments that you have. I'm not going to talk too much about that today, but if you do any outside research or anything, this is where you want to put it. So now to actually apply that to chapter 1 of Night by Elie Wiesel. So first, I just need to write a brief summary. And this doesn't need to be super formal. It's just to kind of clarify for yourself what happened. So I'm going to start. If I look back at my text, I see the first maybe handful of pages are about Moishe the beetle. And he kind of reveals some stuff about Elie in terms of how Elie is a very religious youth. So we meet Elie, who is very religious and studious, and his tutor, Moishe, a wanderer, who is he's kicked out, who is kicked out of town with other foreigners, or foreign Jews in particular. And then when Moishe returns, he tells about the horrors that are happening to Jews, but nobody listens to him. And then later on, horrible things start happening to Wiesel's community. First, all the Jews have to move to a ghetto, and then many of them are transported on trains. Elie's family stays a bit longer, but they are eventually transported too. So that's kind of what happens in this chapter. That's kind of a rough sketch. It's maybe a little more than 3 sentences, it might be 4 or 5, but that's really all you need, just to clarify what happened to yourself. So now it's time to write some thoughtful questions. So my first question is actually going to be a little bit more focused on why the book starts the way it does. I noticed that the first word isn't, like, I went to a concentration camp, or this is what I was like when I was a little boy, but they called him Moshe the Beetle. Um, and and I think that I want to know what Moshe represents, or why Elie Wiesel decided to start with Moshe. So I'm going to ask, why did Wiesel choose to start his story with Moshe? Does he represent something? Is he a symbol? A very important person? So that's just a question that I'd like to throw out to the class. Another question that I have is about, it's maybe not a question that we can answer with this text, but I think it's an interesting conversation piece, which is like, why was everybody so clueless, right? Like, why didn't anybody listen to what was happening? Why didn't they think it was going to happen to them? So why were the Jews in Wiesel's community so clueless about what was going on? And there's a difficult moral question that comes from that, which is it partly their fault that they wound up being so badly treated? At one point, Wiesel does say he, encouraged his dad to pack the family up and move him to Palestine, which is now where Israel is, so that they would be safer. And his dad said, "No, I don't think that's a good idea." So, does Wiesel blame his community members? Does he blame his dad? I'd be really interested to posit that question and have the group chat about that. So that's another question that I have. So I'll just leave those there, and hopefully I'll get a chance to ask them to the class. Hopefully you guys will have some really good ideas about that, so I'll have a better understanding. But now it's time for me to talk about one quote that I found particularly striking, meaningful, or perplexing. And obviously I'm pretty interested in this Moshe character. And so I have this quote that I marked with two different flags. My yellow flags talk about Elie or other people's faith in God. And my blue ones talk about moments where somebody has kind of a vision of what's going to happen or a guess of what's going to happen and nobody listened to them. And that came together in this one quote on page 7. So I'm going to put that quote in there. That was just a quote that really stuck out to me for that reason. So here's the quote. Moshe was not the same. The joy in his eyes was gone. He no longer sang. He no longer mentioned either God or Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a form of Jewish mysticism. He spoke only of what he had seen. But people not only refused to believe his tales, they refused to listen. And that really stuck out to me for this one line. He only spoke of what he had seen. And this connects to the Nobel